What if I told you that the more debt an economy has, the stronger its banks become? That sounds backwards. Debt is supposed to be dangerous. Debt is supposed to weaken nations, collapse companies, and ruin families. And yet, time after time, financial crises leave banks larger, more influential, and more protected than before. So here's the mystery we're unraveling today. How does an economic system designed to avoid collapse somehow reward the institutions most responsible for the debt? And why does more debt often translate into more power for banks? The answer isn't simple, and it wasn't planned all at once. It emerged slowly, quietly through history. Let's begin at the beginning, setting the stage where debt became power. To understand this paradox, we need to rewind centuries to a time when money wasn't numbers on screens, but metal coins locked in chests. Early banks didn't lend freely. They stored gold and silver and issued paper, claims receipts. At first, every note represented real metal, but bankers noticed something important. Most people never asked for their gold back at the same time, and that observation changed history. Banks began lending more receipts than they had gold. This practice became known as fractional reserve banking. It was risky but profitable, because now, money itself was being created through debt. This was the first twist. Debt wasn't just borrowed money anymore. Debt became money. Governments soon noticed this power. Kings and states needed wars financed, roads built, empires expanded. So banks and governments formed a partnership, and that partnership would shape everything that followed. Origins: when governments learned to borrow forever, the modern system truly took shape in the 17th and 18th centuries. One key moment: the Bank of England. Founded in 1694, the British government needed money for war. Instead of raising taxes immediately, it borrowed from a private bank. That bank, in return, gained guaranteed interest, legal privilege, central influence over the money supply. This was revolutionary. For the first time, national debt became permanent. Governments realized something shocking. They didn't need to pay off debt. They only needed to service it, roll it over, borrow more to pay old loans, expand the economy, and hope growth outruns interest. Banks loved this, because government debt is considered the safest asset in the system. It never truly disappears, and it always pays interest. Debt had become not a burden but a foundation. The rise how debt centralized power. Fast forward to the 20th century. Industrial economies explode. Credit expands. Banking becomes more complex. Then comes the Great Depression. Banks collapse. People panic. The system nearly implodes. Here's where another twist appears. Instead of dismantling the banking system, governments protected it. They introduced central banks, deposit insurance, lender of last resort policies. These were meant to stabilize the system. But they also changed incentives. Banks now knew if they failed badly enough, they wouldn't be allowed to fail. This idea, later called too big to fail, quietly reshaped behavior. More leverage became acceptable. More risk became rational because losses could be socialized. And every time debt expanded, banks gained more assets, more interest income, more influence over policy. Debt wasn't just profitable anymore. It was protective. The breaking point, when the system cracked, then came 2008. Housing prices soared. Mortgages were bundled, sliced, and sold. Debt was repackaged as safety until it wasn't. When the system cracked, it cracked everywhere. Banks were insolvent. Credit froze. The global economy teetered on collapse. And here's the paradox in full view. The institutions that caused the crisis were the ones saved first. Governments injected trillions. Central banks slashed interest rates. Assets were bought at massive scale. Why? Because the system had become dependent on banks. If banks failed, everything failed. So debt exploded even further to save the debt system itself. Fallout: bigger banks, bigger power. After the crisis, something unexpected happened. Banks didn't shrink, they merged. They consolidated. They became larger than before. Regulations increased, but so did barriers to entry. Small banks struggled. Big banks adapted. Low interest rates allowed banks to borrow cheaply, buy assets, expand balance sheets. Public debt ballooned, private debt recovered, and once again, debt strengthened the financial core. The system learned a dangerous lesson. Crises don't destroy powerful banks, they refine them. Failed fixes: why reforms didn't break the cycle after each crisis. Reforms are promised: Glass-Steagall, Basel Accords, stress tests, but the core mechanism remains untouched. Money is still created through debt. As long as that's true, someone must borrow for money to exist. Someone must pay interest forever. Banks remain central. Attempts to reduce debt often cause recessions. Attempts to expand growth increase leverage. It's a trap with no easy exit. Even central banks are bound by it. They can print reserves but not real demand. They rely on banks to lend, which means the power dynamic stays intact. Modern parallels: the pattern repeats. Look at today. Global debt has surpassed $300 trillion. Interest rates rise and banks earn more. Governments struggle but continue borrowing. Housing markets depend on credit. Stock markets depend on liquidity. Pensions depend on debt instruments. Every layer leans on the same foundation. And here's the shocking pattern. Every major crisis leads to more debt, not less, and every wave of debt centralizes financial power further. The paradox isn't accidental anymore, it's systemic. 3 clear takeaways. Takeaway number 1. Debt is the engine, not the accident. Modern economies don't just use debt, they require it. Banks sit at the center of this creation process. Takeaway number 2. Crises strengthen the core when debt collapses. Institutions closest to money creation are protected first. Takeaway number 3. Power follows dependency. The more society depends on debt, the more influence debt creators hold.